it's my great pleasure to introduce a very interesting topic called the power of storytelling. And I couldn't have a better expert than Kirstie Fitzpatrick and her personal journey in this area. But let's first introduce Kirstie for those that don't already know her. And Kirstie is a talented new generation journalist and media professional based in Canberra and a rising star as a TV presenter. She's comfortable with all media platforms and has a real passion for storytelling and informing people about current issues and current affairs. In recent times, she entered the world of dermal therapies as a result of her own experience with skin cancer and recently graduated with an associate degree in applied health science, dermal therapies. Isn't that exciting? Thank you. And so congratulations for that. That's wonderful. Now, before we move on to the interview, I also want to say we're delighted that Kirstie has accepted to be part of APJ Journal Expert Contributing Panel. So she'll be sharing tips and ideas on how to perfect and really master that side of your business. So it'll be wonderful to her joining our team and for us to really learn from her expertise. So welcome today, and it's lovely to have you, Kirstie. So let's start with your first question, and that is, tell us about your personal story that led you into our industry, into the aesthetics industry.
Yeah, thanks, Tina. Thank you so much for such a warm welcome and a warm introduction, and I'm really excited to be a part of the APJ Journal team. My story and my sort of way into the aesthetics industry is quite an interesting one, and I have quite an interesting relationship with the skin. So I was diagnosed with a very rare form of skin cancer when I was just 19 years old, and it's been an ongoing part of my adult life. I guess the rarity of the cancer has meant that there have been lots and lots of follow-ups, lots of investigation, lots more, major and minor surgeries to sort of work out what's been going on in my body. And through this whole journey, what I struggled with was just not understanding what was going on in my own body, not understanding clinical terminology, not understanding, why I was having these issues with my skin. And throughout all of these years, I became more and more interested in wanting to find out what was going on, wanting to learn more just about skin sort of physiology as a whole. I wanted to know best practices for things like wound healing, scarring, because that was such a big part of my surgeries and my experience and my journey. And I guess through my journalism background, that's my initial qualification, I started to realize that maybe I could be a middle person for this. Maybe I could use those storytelling skills and this clinical knowledge that I was learning about and put them together to sort of find a way to tell people about maybe their skin or what's going on in their own bodies in a way that they might be able to understand, because I knew that I wasn't understanding it initially. I guess then through all of that research and all of that investigation into my own skin and skin cancers, and I found myself really immersed in this world of aesthetics as a whole, everything from cosmetic chemistry to new skin treatments and emerging technologies in the industry, and that led me to want to study in it further. And that's sort of the roundabout way of how I got into it, sort of all through this overwhelming experience that I had of cancer when I was just 19.
That's wonderful. It's really, really amazing that you really took charge of your own health and also in gaining a better understanding of what you could do for yourself rather than just feeling sorry for yourself. I think when we get involved in information and it gives us the power to have the confidence to address things more better rather than falling into areas of feeling sorry for ourselves, because cancer can be a scaring thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a big part of it for me was wanting to be someone who could go to other people and say, I've been through this, I understand this, I can help. It's overwhelming, it's confronting. But when we break it all down, having done research and now, tertiary education, here's how I can explain it in a bit more simple terms, and to try to take some of that overwhelm away from people that are going through a similar thing.
Oh. So, as a media professional, why is storytelling so powerful? That's something that people are trying to get their heads around, because we're told to share technical knowledge and
Mhm.
understanding the role of storytelling in the communication pathway to engaging with the public. You would be a real expert to really articulate how that works and why is it so important, and what have you experienced in real life, how it's transformed engagement.
I think storytelling is essentially at the crux of all our communication, right? And so, we can go back to simple things like asking a colleague or a friend what they did on the weekend. And inevitably, from that simple question, they'll tell you all these stories about people they met and things they did and experiences they had. So, storytelling is really at the crux of how we communicate. And the way that we see storytelling have an impact on people is when it's provided with a real personal element, something that people can relate to. So, from a media perspective, it's one of the reasons why we see, our major news stories are often involving tragedy or death or loss, because it's what grips people, it's what engages people, because it hits that emotional psyche. Our individual and our collective emotional side is really affected when we hear stories and we hear about something that we could relate to. We could imagine that we're there or picture what it might be like to be in that situation. So, in the same way that from a media perspective, it's that personal element and that emotional element that really grips people. It can be that way when we're telling stories from a business point of view as well. And, one of the things that I sort of speak about is that if you're a business owner or, someone's, in the industry and is looking to tell your story and get that story out there, the more that you can promote yourself, essentially telling people why you got into the industry. Was it because you had a decade-long battle with acne when you were in your teenage years, or is it because you've gone through an experience like myself with skin cancer? Immediately people can relate to you. They know that you've been through what they're going through. And it's almost like storytelling is almost like forming a community. You've either been there alongside that person in their journey, or you're getting an insight into what they're going through and you can start to relate to that. So a big part of it is all about tapping into that emotional side of people and that emotional vulnerability, which makes people feel comfortable. It makes them relate to you. And I think that's how it grows, and that's how storytelling can be so powerful.
I recently did an article in APJ, the issue that's coming out on psychographics and how we know about demographics, but the demographics give us the financial status or the economic position or the age and how many children they have. But when we go into psychographics, it's all about what drives you, what your passions are, what you believe, and the issues that touch your heart. And there's a lot of media attention now in terms of business that we need to connect with each other on their our personal stories and areas that we that resonate with our beliefs and our heart. So we're engaging the heart, not just the mind. So
Yes.
that's really, really good. Now, just before I go to the next question, I wanted to ask you, with a business with storytelling, if they have a powerful story of a client, would that work as well as sharing the story of themselves? Like, for example, if someone entered the industry because they thought it was a lovely idea, but don't have a powerful story behind their entry, can they equally share the journey of someone that was transformed through what they've done? Would it have as much power?
Yes, absolutely it can do. And I think at the end of the day, it all comes back to what the story is and why you're wanting to tell it. And it comes back to that relationship. So a good way to gauge that sort of thing is by speaking to people already in your, in your life and in your environment, your work environment, your personal environment. Tell them that story, see what their reactions are, gauge what their reactions are. Of course, a lot of people might not have a really necessarily necessarily inspirational entry into the industry, and that's absolutely fine. So it's just about gauging interest, and gauging the impact something has on somebody else's life. And it might be that client or that patient might actually want to come on board and be part of that storytelling experience as well to help drive that. So yes, absolutely. I think it's all about selling what you have to tell in a bit of a unique way. What is it that's made it different? What is it that makes it stand out? What is it that's going to engage other consumers or engage attention? Are you doing something different as a business? Have you helped someone in a way that hasn't been done before or hasn't been shown before? It might be that your personal journey into the industry may not have a story behind it, but since you've been in the industry, perhaps through professional development or research skills, you've uncovered something. You've uncovered something that's new, that's different. You're working on research studies. You could be really groundbreaking in the industry, and so it could be there's lots of different ways in which storytelling has a major part, and I think it's just looking at what you have and what's unique about that, and how you can then bring that into a sort of wider sphere.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Now, with your own story, for example, what doors because I believe you've had some successes in sharing your story that has given you some interesting connections. So what doors has it opened up for you?
Well, I guess first and foremost, being able to sit here and speak to you today is such a wonderful opportunity. And I'm so grateful that, this, I guess, really difficult thing that happened to me when I was so young has now led me on a path where I can speak about it, where I've studied about it, and where I'm looking to combine, what is now, I guess, more of a proper education in skin. One of the other ways that I'm very grateful that this experience has and my own personal story has led me in life is that I do some ambassador work for the Skin Cancer College of Australasia. They're a very groundbreaking organisation who deal a lot with medical professionals, and so part of my role in that has been speaking with medical professionals to give them a patient perspective on what we go through when we are dealing with doctors and dealing with oncologists and GPs, skin specialists, just to give a bit of an insight into our own personal experience. Things again like demystifying some of that language, trying to make things a little simpler for patients to understand. I was incredibly lucky to speak at a conference of over 500, delegates, skin cancer delegates, about my journey, which is something I never thought I would do. And again, it comes back to my own experience, but also this skin knowledge that I've acquired through my degree, and my own presentation work and my own journalist work. So I've been very grateful in that sense. And part of that work is also looking through regional communities. So the work that I do in my job is with regional communities in New South Wales and parts of Victoria. So the wider reach I've got to be able to speak to those communities about, the better.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Okay, so share with us some valuable tips of how a business can prepare a successful pitch of their story to the media.
So pitches are all about selling yourself and selling what you're doing. And essentially the job of the media is always to be working out what's in the public interest and then sharing that with their audiences. So from a business perspective, it comes back to some of the things we spoke about before. Are you launching something new or unique? Are you providing services that aren't available elsewhere? Have you got an innovative product? Have you been working on these research and development and you've come across something quite new and interesting? So it's really learning to sell yourself, which can be very hard as an individual or as a business trying to put yourself out there. But when you can sort of work out what it is that you're doing that's unique, that provides a really wonderful way to then pitch to the media. And there are a number of ways you can do that. So probably the most common is through press releases or media releases, and they highlight what that newsworthy angle is. So, for example, it might be trends from a recent skin study or something like that. It highlights the new information and the interesting information, and it includes all the key details, who it affects, the impact it might have. You basically want to tell the media why this is important, how many people this could impact. And then, of course, there's more logistical things with press releases. So you're wanting to include maybe some quotes, contact details. If you're providing a bit more on products, you might send some samples out. You might want to provide footage of a new, if you have a new business opening, you might want to provide pictures and videos and that sort of thing. I think in all instances, it's about highlighting what you're doing that's new and different and why it should be of interest to the community. And I think one of the key things when it comes to pitching to media is also knowing the differences within media formats and the story requirements that we have. So, for example, if you're pitching to a TV network, we're of course going to want pictures, we're going to want vision, we're going to want you to be able to talk in front of a camera, as opposed to if it's maybe print or if it's radio, where we might just need some audio recordings or some pictures and that sort of thing. So the key things around preparing for a pitch is having some real clarity on what it is that you're wanting to get out there, really selling why it's important, making yourself available and all the information available, and being aware of those media formats so that you can strike the right balance with everyone.
Well, that's fantastic. We do value your knowledge, and we look forward to various other intervals, especially through your writing, that you can inform people. Are you also available for businesses to contact you if they would like to get your support and engage you in their process?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I would love to work with businesses in any queries they have in relation to media, or any ways to help with media pitches and getting themselves out there.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for today, and we look forward. You'll be hearing a lot more from Kirstie, and we're delighted to have her and her expertise. I know it'll make a big difference.